Hello friends, my name is Brendan. Welcome back to The Crawl. So last year for GameSpot, I had the opportunity to interview 5 indie developers making RPGs inspired by Kingsfield and Shadow Tower. One of those games, Lunacid, is about to come out of early access on Halloween. So I figured this was the perfect opportunity to reach out to Kira again and do a follow-up interview for The Crawl to hear how its early access period impacted the final game and to just talk about dungeon crawlers in general with the person who is making what is easily my most anticipated dungeon crawler of 2023.
Hey, I'm Akuma Kira. I'm developing Lunacid, which is a first-person dungeon crawler. Before then, I made a survival horror game called Lost in Vivo. And then before that, I made a game called Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion with a co-developer, Sheena Perez. I like making horror games mostly, but then I got on a FromSoftware kick, which bled into everything. And I don't know if it'll ever leave, because now I just want everything to have a sword in it.
Lunacid is a first-person dungeon-crawling RPG set in a giant well that serves as a prison where criminals and exiles serve out their sentences in strange, subterranean realms where monsters, demons, and other horrors lurk. The game is heavily inspired by FromSoft's earlier titles like Kingsfield and Shadow Tower, offering a challenging dungeon crawl through interconnected locations filled with traps, puzzles, and monsters, as well as quirky NPCs, mysterious loot to collect, and other helpful items that will help you survive within the well's depths. When I first interviewed Kira, we talked about the ways Lunacid sticks to the classic FromSoft formula while trying to modernize or iterate on ideas, and combat was one of the major examples they gave. Instead of the slow, arcing attacks of Kingsfield and Shadow Tower's combat, Lunacid features a faster and more precise combat system that feels more in line with modern first-person combat systems. However, to maintain that sense of tension and slower pacing, Kira created a charge mechanic that allows players to charge their attacks for higher damage, or you can just jab away quickly with less precise attacks that do less damage. It's a great way of how Lunacid manages to repackage the old-school, difficult, and slow-paced gameplay of Kingsfield and Shadow Tower in a more modern and approachable package. And now that the game has gone through over a year of early access, I was curious if there was anything about Shadow Tower or Kingsfield that Kira took extra effort to preserve in Lunacid.
Yeah, I wanted to keep mean status effects. Because like blind, just put a black overlay on the screen, it's fine. My favorite is EXP drain. And then like the mimics, instead of just damaging you, they take your money.
Did you get any pushback from early access players being like, hey, I don't think this is fun, or I don't like this?
Not that I saw. Most people just thought it was funny. Even like when I post like, what should this status effect should this dog do? And people are like, yeah, just make it slow the player down. That's great. I feel like nothing is truly sacred in gaming. But certain things will make it better or less enjoyable. I'm sure big companies have, focus testing and there's definitely rules to follow. Like, you can't just delete someone's save. You can't just, lock them out of the good ending or something like that just because they died or something. But I think in general, it's just if the game is fun for you and fun for the people who are testing it, then it's good.
One of my favorite parts of Lunacid is that it features interconnected zones similar to Kingsfield 4, Dark Souls, or Symphony of the Night. This style of level design is perfect for a dungeon crawler, but it can be really hard to pull off properly. So I made sure to ask Kira how they managed to make it work in Lunacid.
I got graph paper and tried to make them lay out like a good Kingsfield level does. Well, I start by trying to make a small bit of it with a good look, a distinct aesthetic. And then I just kind of work in there until I feel like I'm getting tired of that aesthetic, and I make like a section next to it. Some areas, the music came first, like the spooky ritual area in the first area with the people with their heads gouged out. That wasn't going to be a spooky area, but then I made that song and I was like, this sounds good. I want to make a scary area. So that's just what it turned into. But because I'm just working with Maya and Unity, I'll make a big area and then I'm like, I want to knock out that wall and put an elevator that goes down and make a whole nother section. I can do that. I can go back in and rearrange stuff, and I do that a lot. I don't play as fast as most people do. I kind of look around at stuff, even though I've seen it 100 times. So people will miss stuff, and I have to make things stand out. Put a little flourish, some flowers next to where you're supposed to go. I just keep building onto it till an area feels complete.
The Kingsfield and Shadow Tower influences aren't just superficial. The game's store page directly calls out Kingsfield and Shadow Tower as main inspirations. That said, Lunacid wasn't always supposed to be a Kingsfield or Shadow Tower influenced dungeon crawler. In fact, Kira's first idea was to create a first-person Castlevania-style game. Kira stumbled upon Kingsfield and Shadow Tower while researching other first-person Metroidvania games, and was immediately intrigued by the hardcore gameplay and oppressive atmosphere these games provide, and wanted to create something similar. However, Lunacid is more than just a FromSoftware clone, and everything from the gameplay to the aesthetics is influenced by a wide array of other games and media, including Persona 3, Silent Hill, and dungeon synth music. And though Kira pivoted away from a Castlevania-style game to a Kingsfield-style game, that Castlevania influence is still strongly present in the final game, and many players will likely recognize a familiar voice during the game's opening sequence.
Long ago, a great beast came from the sea and brought with it a poisonous fog that spread across the earth.
Indeed, but you must always remember that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.
Yes, that's right. Robert Belgrade, the original voice actor for Alucard in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, offers the intro and ending narrations for Lunacid.
I was like, I'm going to look him up. I found his website. He wasn't doing any voice acting that I saw. So I was just like, I'll just email him and see if he'll do it. And he responded, and was super positive and was like, yeah, just pay me whatever you can. I know you're a small developer. He was super nice about it. And then a year goes by, and then I'm like, okay, I finished the ending narration. Here's the lines. But he did them, and they turn out great, and I'm excited for people to hear them on Halloween if they can get to the whole end of the game in a day.
Part of Kira's process while developing Lunacid was going back to older dungeon crawler games that they had never experienced. Were you a big dungeon crawler fan before, even discovering Kingsfield? I know that was part of the process of making Lunacid, as you went back and played Kingsfield and the other FromSoft games, but did you play other dungeon crawlers prior to that?
I had, but not like with as much fervor as I have now.
Were there any that you've discovered that, whether they influenced Lunacid or not, that you were just really taken with, that you really liked?
Well, recently was Arx Fatalis, because I had heard things. I knew it was going to be amazing and also janky, but it was it still surprised me with how good some things were. The whole underground aesthetic of the City Underground, which we kind of did for Lunacid, was so well designed in that, and that made a more immersive, claustrophobic experience sometimes.
While the majority of Kira's games are solo projects, they have also collaborated with other people on previous games, and are collaborating with others on Lunacid's soundtrack. So I was curious to hear Kira's feelings on the difference between solo projects and collaborative ones. You're basically doing everything. I know you work with other people, but is that a necessity, or is that just, that's where your curiosity and creativity take you?
Yeah, it's just where curiosity is. I guess it started out as a necessity because I didn't know anyone else who could help make games. I just had to learn to do everything. But I do enjoy it, and I like making the music, and I like making scripts and stuff, because I like making the whole package. Professionally, my job is a technical artist. They're kind of like in the middle of the technical side and the artist side, but they can do anything. It's still wild to me that so many people make games, and there's so many indie devs out there now, and I do collaborate more. So now it's kind of like, oh, I really want to make this song for this area, but Jaren would do such a better job, which is a really good place to be, I think.
One major project Kira has collaborated on is Dread Delusion. Dread Delusion is yet another Kingsfield-inspired RPG, but rather than being purely a dungeon crawler, Dread Delusion also takes cues from Morrowind, featuring a more open-ended game world filled with tons of side quests, factions, and tons of epic world building outside of the main questline. Kira was brought on as a contractor to help with Dread Delusion's combat system, and in the process came away with a renewed focus on Lunacid. So speaking of games like Lunacid, you've been working with the Dread Delusion team, and I'm just curious how that experience has been, and if that changed anything about Lunacid in any way.
It kind of helped me refocus in Lunacid. For a while, I was thinking of like, if I ever made a follow-up, I should reach out further. I should make a whole day-night cycle town, basically what Dread Delusion is. It's closer to Morrowind, I guess open world kind of game. And they're basically making that kind of game. So it's really fun because I had played their game, and then I got hired as a subcontractor just to do like combat overhaul. They gave me a couple things like they wanted me to do, but I also just got to play the game, be like, ooh, I can add this to make it a little better. I mostly just added like the camera wobble when you attack, and I redid a bunch of weapon animations. So like when you crouch, you hold your dagger to the side, little things like that to give it more impact.
Do you have any idea of like what's next after Lunacid? Is there going to be a Lunacid 2 or something like that? Or is it like, okay, I made the dungeon crawler and I'm going to go do something else?
I haven't solidly decided on what'll be my main focus long term. Even though Lunacid's going to be like 1.0, I still have a lot of work to do. I'm making it easier to localize because I do want it to be a bunch of languages, and then eventually want to port it to something. So I'll be working on doing that for a while. But I've like already started on a Lunacid prequel that's on the sort of Moonlight engine, and it's already like, I want to say 50% done. But I was only working on it for the weekends for like a month, so it still has a lot of work to do. I haven't worked on it in a while because I wanted to actually finish Lunacid. Lunacid 1.0 will come out on Halloween. It will have the full story and a bunch of polish and bug fixes. And there definitely will be a prequel, but it is on the sort of Moonlight engine, so it will be janky.
Thanks again to Kira for taking the time to talk to me about Lunacid. If you're interested in the game, be sure to check out the links down below to check out its Steam store page. And, of course, an extra special thanks to my Patreon and Ko-Fi supporters who help keep this channel going and help make this interview possible. Those supporters also get access to the private Crawlmunity Discord, as well as other benefits like early access to videos and full-length interviews that you won't find on the channel. Be sure to check the links down below to see how you can get all those perks and more. And don't forget to subscribe and go check out my other videos on dungeon crawlers, indie development, and more. I appreciate you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.